A bill to establish a national commission for the prohibition of hate speeches has been introduced in the Senate. I'm Linda Akibe, and you are welcome to the gavel. Now, this bill to establish a national commission for the prohibition of hate speeches is sponsored by Senator Abdullahi Sabi, and the commission is to facilitate and promote a harmonious, peaceful coexistence among all ethnic groups and to ensure the elimination of all forms of hate speeches in Nigeria. The bill prescribes life imprisonment for anyone found guilty of hate speech and death by hanging where hate speeches causes loss of lives.
Last but one page.
3 bills to regulate the social media space are before the Senate. The Protection from Internet Falsehood and Manipulations Bill 2019, the bill to establish a national commission for the prohibition of hate speeches, and the Cybercrimes Amendment Bill. The Protection from Internet Falsehood and Manipulations Bill 2019 was introduced in the Senate last week on November the 5th.
And of course, we should follow this through our committee.
The bill, which passed first reading, seeks to prevent the spreading and broadcasting of falsehood and manipulations using social media platforms via internet broadcasts and transmissions. The bill lays out provisions prohibiting the transmission of false statements and prescribes penalties for defaulters upon conviction, ranging from fines of up to 300,000 naira for individuals and 10 million naira for others, and imprisonment of up to 3 years. The sponsor of the bill, Senator Musa Sani, says the provisions of the bill are to apply throughout the Federation.
You as an individual that have your phone and you can just go into your room and draft something that you know is false and you send it out. And you that have the platform as a group that will read that and you know very well that this is not true and you decide to disseminate it too. And also you that operate as the transmitter, you also have a responsibility. And that is the reason why we felt we must come up with a legislation that this is personal legislation. And I felt we need it in this country.
So we need really to push for...
On Tuesday, November 12, the bill to establish a national commission for the prohibition of hate speeches was listed on the order paper for the first reading. Some of the highlights of the bill include: the object and purpose for which the commission is established is to facilitate and promote a harmonious, peaceful coexistence within the people of all ethnic groups indigenous to Nigeria, and more importantly, to achieve this objective by ensuring the elimination of all forms of hate speeches in Nigeria, and to advise the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on all aspects thereof. Section 4 of the bill defines the act of hate speech as 1. A person who uses, publishes, presents, produces, distributes or directs the performance of any material, written and or visual, which is threatening, abusive or insulting, commits an offense if such person intends thereby to stir up ethnic hatred. 2. Any person who commits an offense under this section shall be liable to life imprisonment, and where the act causes any loss of life, the person shall be punished with death by hanging. A coalition of civil society organizations visited the Senate Minority Leader to express their displeasure over the introduction of the Protection from Internet Falsehood and Manipulations Bill 2019, also known as the Social Media Bill.
Social media is now seen as the last impediment to an emerging fascist and totalitarian state in Nigeria. As enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution, Section 39, subsection 1 and 2, every person shall be entitled to freedom of expression, including freedom to hold opinions and to receive and impart ideas and information without interference, without prejudice to the generality of subsection 1 of this section. Every person shall be entitled to own, establish, or operate any medium for the dissemination of information, ideas, and opinions. We therefore most respectfully and reverently urge your leadership to side with Nigerians and impress it on your colleagues not to support this obnoxious bill that seeks to attack the last hold of the common man.
We cannot make any comment on what is still on the second, on the first stage of the bill. But what I can assure you, and I can assure Nigerians, is that this Senate cannot be a party to removing the rights of Nigerians to whatever is enshrined in the Constitution. The Constitution says under Section 39, as you rightly have noted in your address, that we have rights. We have those freedoms, freedom of speech, freedom to hold and espouse ideas. Those things are fundamental freedoms of every human being that is guaranteed by all our members. And I can assure you that the 9th Senate will not abridge your rights. That we will not, as part of the 9th Senate, accept.
The Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, in an interview with Channels Television, says the Senate should focus on enacting legislations to better the lives of Nigerians rather than seeking to stifle free speech.
I think we should allow press to operate in a democratic setting like Nigeria. What makes democracy great is actually the ability for the media and the civil society to function effectively without hindrance, without attempt to cajole them and emasculate them. But if you do this, it will be very, very unfair. And in any case, when you say you want to have a commission, to manage this, you are going to increase the burden of governance. Public taxpayers' money, which we know many agencies in Nigeria now, they are actually, even overploated, and now you want to create another commission. I think this is not well thought. We will advocate and advise the National Assembly to drop this idea, because this idea will make them more unpopular. It will also make them to look like they are anti-people, they are anti-information, they are anti-open space. They are not also interested to allow freedom of expression. I think it is important that National Assembly focus on issues that can have direct bearing for the Nigerian people. There is need for legislative intervention in the area of health, in the area of education, in the area of infrastructure, in the area of job creation, in the area of even water and sanitation, and not really wasting public taxpayers' money and their own time doing things that is not even needed. It is not appreciated. It is not really welcoming, and it has no value in terms of ensuring good governance.
Both bills will now have to pass through a legislative process, part of which will include getting the views of Nigerians during the public hearings.
The Senate and the House of Representatives debated the ban on the distribution of petroleum products to towns and communities within 20 kilometers of any border area in Nigeria. To tackle illegal smuggling, the Nigerian Customs Service placed a ban on the sale of petroleum products within 20 kilometers of any border area in Nigeria. Now, lawmakers in both chambers feel the ban is making life difficult for people who reside in these border communities. While the House asked the Nigerian Customs Service to lift the ban on the distribution of these petroleum products, the Senate has directed the Committee on Customs to invite the Comptroller General of Customs over the matter.
2,000 border communities.
A federal lawmaker is drawing the attention of the House to the ban on the distribution of petroleum products to fuel stations within 20 kilometers of the country's border. And although the Nigeria Customs says the rationale behind the ban is to check smuggling, the lawmakers are worried that the border closure is already biting hard on the Nigerian communities around the borders.
There are over 2,000 border communities living on 105 local governments in 21 states of this federation that are sharing borders between Niger Republic, Chad Republic, Benin Republic, and Cameroon. alarmed that the directive is tantamount to the Nigeria Customs Service exercising powers that violate the provisions of the Custom and Excise Act as amended. Also alarmed that the directive will no doubt increase the suffering of Nigerians living in the border areas who are already feeling the impact of the border closure more than the rest of the country.
This lawmaker fears that President Buhari's hometown may be affected by the ban.
Also alarmed that the directive will no doubt increase the suffering of Nigerians living in the border areas who are already feeling the impact of the border closure more than the rest of the country. Urge the Nigeria Customs Service to review its ban on the supply of petroleum products to border communities as it contravenes the provisions of the Customs and Excise Act as amended.
From Daura to Kongolam, that's the border, international border. It's 18 kilometers. From Mr. President's house, living home, his bedroom, to the border is just 13 kilometers. That's a very good point there. We all know the borders are closed, but they still allow things to go in and out. I'm a living witness, and I stand to be corrected. Therefore, yesterday, I was there around 1 a.m. Nobody knows. I saw what they are doing. So, sir, the custom need to be invited here, and they need to be questioned.
While suggesting that the ban by the Nigeria Customs is in violations of the Customs and Excise Management Act, the House resolves to mandate its committees on Interior, Customs and Petroleum Downstream to within 2 weeks engage with the concerned parties and report back for further legislative action. The matter is also discussed in the Senate. A motion is moved by Senator Odebi Akinremi, who is asking the Senate to revisit the suspension order placed by the Customs Service on the supply of petroleum products to border communities. Senator Akinremi says the directive by the Customs Service is causing a huge scarcity of petroleum products in the border towns, as well as raising the cost of fuel astronomically.
The order has created a huge scarcity of petroleum products in the border towns of Ogun, Lagos, Adamawa, Katsina and Sokoto states, particularly in communities like Ilashe, Ajegule, Idiroko, Agoshasha, among others in the Ikoka local government area of the state. Mr. President, it might interest you to know that even some hospitals cannot operate because obviously getting petrol now has become a challenge. Our businesses are closing down. People cannot go to work because they need to go 20 kilometers away for them to buy petrol to their motorcycles in order for them to be able to go about their respective duties. The knee-jerk approach to a modern-day solution, as it is obsolete when compared to the array of technological solutions that can be explored to rid the country of this menace.
I came from a border town, and my town is not more than 20 kilometers away from the border. And if you look at Gada in my own district, in my own senatorial district, it's not more than 10 kilometers away. Then if you look at Ilela also, we have the same problem. If you look at Isa, we have the same problem. If you look at Kamba in Kebbi State, the same problem. Elo, Dandi, and so on. All we have this kind of problem. And if you look at even Daura itself, in Katsina, Daura where the president came from, it's only about 10 kilometers away from the border. So, Jibia. So I think if we say we are going to give this kind of thing, we are going to accept this law, then it's going to be a problem. Therefore, I think we should suspend this law for now.
In the process of the Senate consequently mandated its Committee on Customs to summon the Comptroller General of the Nigerian Customs Service, Hamid Ali, over the suspension of the supply of petroleum products to border towns.